We hadn't touched each other in months, but I still made his lunch every morning. Every single morning. It was 6:14 a.m., and the Keurig was wheezing again. Our kitchen lights flickered like they always did when the microwave and toaster ran at the same time. The toast smelled burnt. His sandwich was half done on the counter, turkey, no mayo, because it makes the bread slimy. I didn't even realize I was crying until a drop landed on the bread. I'm a 51-year-old retail manager in Huntsville, Alabama. Married 27 years. We have one daughter. She moved to Portland last spring. It's quieter now. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just empty. Our house is always a little cold in the morning. I usually wear his old hoodie, the gray one with the faded Titans logo. He doesn't notice. He used to. Now, he just grunts good morning, grabs his lunch bag, and leaves. He used to kiss me. Hell, he used to see me. Now I'm just part of the background. The fridge. The floor. The woman who knows where the scissors are. Last winter, I signed up for a manager forum online. It was mostly for late-night venting and corporate memes. That's where I first noticed his comment. J. Clark 85. His avatar was a raccoon in sunglasses. He replied to one of my posts about customer service burnout. It's wild how we are expected to smile through abuse. You ever want to just vanish? It wasn't flirtatious. Not at first. It was honest. Raw. I replied. That turned into messages. Then late-night chats. Then voice notes. His voice was soft, slightly hoarse. He called me Red because of a joke I made about dyeing my roots every month. I hadn't laughed like that in years. We talked about work, but also books, music, dreams we gave up on. He sent me a song once, something old and bluesy, and said it reminded him of the way I talk. I knew I should have stopped. I knew this wasn't just talking anymore. But at 2 a.m., lying in bed with my husband snoring beside me, hearing a message from J. Clark whisper, "You still awake, Red?" It felt like my heart woke up for the first time in years. I kept telling myself it was harmless. Just messages. Just laughs. But it wasn't harmless. Last Thursday, I went out back to take the trash. I'd left my phone on the kitchen island. When I came back in, my husband was standing over it, staring at the screen like it had punched him. He didn't say anything. Just looked at me. Then handed it over and walked out the front door. I opened the message. It was a voice note. From J. Clark. 4 words. You still taste sweet. My knees buckled. I didn't even remember recording that. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe he meant something else. My head was spinning so hard I almost dropped the phone. I checked the date. It was from 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, when I was supposed to be at a team dinner. And I was. But I didn't tell anyone I took a detour after. I smelled his cologne before I even saw him. That made it worse. It wasn't supposed to happen. I told myself it wouldn't. But it did. The second my husband stepped out that door, I knew. This wasn't just emotional anymore. And he knew it. I haven't heard from him since. But I heard something else. The sound of a car engine last night, stopping just past our driveway. Then a knock on the door. 3 sharp knocks. And then silence. I didn't open it. But I knew exactly who it was. I haven't slept since. I didn't open the door that night. I sat on the floor, just behind the entryway wall, knees pulled tight to my chest, breathing so shallow I could barely hear myself think. My phone buzzed once in my hoodie pocket, then went quiet. I didn't look. I couldn't. There's something primal about fear, when it's not fear of being hurt, but fear of being seen. Exposed. Like someone's ripped your skin off and left you raw and shaking on the front lawn. It wasn't my husband at the door. I knew that in my bones. He doesn't knock. Not on his own house. That was Jake Clark. Jacob. Yeah, he told me his name eventually. Maybe around the time he started sending photos of his dog, or when he called me on my birthday and sang so off-key I cried laughing into a pillow. That night, he was in town. He'd said it casually during a late-night call the week before. I'm heading through Alabama next Friday, meeting with some store representatives in Birmingham. I'll be about an hour from you. I remember sitting on the edge of our bathtub, bare feet on the cold tile, chewing the drawstring of my pajama pants, heart pounding. I'll wave as I pass your exit, he said. I laughed. Wave hard. I might feel it. We both knew that wasn't the end of it. Friday came and went. I'd worn lipstick for the first time in months, dabbed on some cheap perfume from a Walgreens bottle that smelled like junior prom. I stood in front of my closet for 40 minutes trying to figure out what the hell kind of jeans made me look not invisible. Then I told myself I was ridiculous, changed into yoga pants, and made a casserole. But he showed up anyway. I don't know how he found the house. Maybe I mentioned a landmark, or he found my business listing online and connected the dots. Or maybe I wanted to be found. I stayed on the floor until my legs went numb. When I finally got up, I looked through the window. His car was gone. There was a coffee cup on the porch step. One of those gas station ones, plastic lid, logo peeling from the steam. There was a note written in Sharpie on the sleeve. Didn't mean to scare you. I'll wait till you're ready. Jay. I threw it in the trash. Then I fished it back out 5 minutes later and tucked it under the bathroom sink like a damn lunatic. I told myself it was over. That night, I blocked his number. Deleted the chats. Cleared the call logs. Hid the playlist he made me. Threw out the Carmex I only bought because he said he liked the cherry kind. I even tried to sleep with my husband. It didn't go anywhere. We just lay there, not touching, both pretending to be asleep. The ceiling fan clicked every time the chain swung. He still hadn't brought up the message. No confrontation. No screaming. Just silence. That was worse. I started watching him closer. His movements. His expressions. How his eyes didn't meet mine in a mall when he came in from work. How he stopped asking if I needed anything from the store. I noticed how he started taking his phone into the bathroom, something I used to do. And I hated myself for noticing. But that voice note, those 4 words, they were still echoing. You still taste sweet. It wasn't even what he said. It was how he said it. Like it wasn't about sex. Like it was about me. My skin, my breath, my presence. No one had spoken to me like that in years. My husband hadn't touched me like he meant it since before the pandemic. Some nights, I'd sit in the dark, curled in the La-Z Boy with the ripped armrest, staring at the glow of the oven clock, wondering how I'd ended up here. Married to a man who couldn't see me. Haunted by a man who barely knew me. Feeling like I was trapped inside someone else's life. I wish I could say I stayed strong. But the truth? I bought a burner phone. I used a prepaid Visa from the Dollar General on 4th and Collins. Paid in cash. Activated it from the library parking lot using the free Wi-Fi. The first message I sent him was just a period. He replied 2 minutes later. Is it you? I don't know what I expected to feel. Shame? Relief? Maybe both? We started texting again. Quietly. Sparingly. Never during the day. He sent voice notes from his car, radio low in the background. I could hear his keys jingling, his breath slowing when he spoke to me like I was the only person on earth worth waiting for. One night, he sent a photo. It wasn't dirty. It was just him. Sitting in a hotel bed, reading a paperback with dog-eared pages. No shirt. Lamplight behind him. His eyes soft. Vulnerable. I miss you, read. I didn't respond for an hour. When I did, it was a single line. I dream about your hands. There's something so dangerous about wanting. It makes you forget the floor under your feet is already cracking. And this? This was just the start of the fall. I hadn't even hit the bottom yet. There's this strange silence that falls over a house when both people are lying. Not fighting. Not even speaking. Just existing beside each other like polite strangers on a long flight. That's what it's been like between me and Kevin for the past few weeks. He still comes home at 6. Still drops his keys in the ceramic bowl I made in pottery class our first year of marriage. Still eats what I cook. Still mows the lawn on Saturdays. But everything feels automated. We haven't laughed in months. I don't remember the last time he made eye contact for more than a second. The way he used to look at me, like I was a fire he could never quite touch, is gone. Now, when his eyes find mine, it's as if he's checking whether the lights are still on. He never brought up the message. Not directly. But he changed the password to our Wi-Fi. And moved the mail key to his truck. Little things. Quiet punishments. I've been sleeping with the burner phone in my purse. I keep it off most of the day. I only charge it when he's out running errands or at his brother's place fixing the deck. It's ridiculous how quickly I memorize Jacob's number. We text late. Always after 11. He sends audio sometimes, just his voice talking about nothing. A weird dream he had. A band he thinks I'd like. A thought about kindness in the middle of a gas station in Georgia. He doesn't ask for anything. Not anymore. Not even photos. He just wants me to be there. To listen. To exist in his world. And God help me, I do. I listen to his messages curled under the throw blanket Kevin's mom gave us for Christmas. The one with our initials stitched on it. Sometimes I put my hand over my mouth to keep from crying too loud. It's not about love. It's not even about sex. It's about feeling seen. Wanted. Like I'm not some invisible appliance humming in the corner of a house we built 20 years ago. One night, I caved and asked him something I shouldn't have. If we weren't married, would you still want me? There was a pause. I could almost hear the quiet of his room through the message he sent back. If you were mine, read. I'd never let you feel alone in your own bed. I listened to that one 3 times. Then deleted it. Then cried like a child. It didn't matter if it was true. What mattered was that someone believed I was still worth wanting. This past weekend was Kevin's birthday. His mom threw a little gathering at the house. Just close friends and family. I wore a simple dress, navy blue, with buttons down the side. It used to fit better. I tried to pin back my hair like I used to in my 30s, but all I could think about was how hollow my eyes looked in the mirror. I almost didn't wear the necklace. The one Jacob sent. It was cheap, just a tiny silver bar pendant, nothing flashy, but he said it reminded him of my voice. Simple, but it lingers. I wore it anyway. Halfway through the party, while I was refilling bowls of chips in the kitchen, Kevin's cousin Mark walked in behind me. We hadn't seen him in a while. He's observant. Quiet. He reached past me for a drink and then paused. Nodded toward the necklace. That new? I froze. Swallowed. Yeah, just a gift. He squinted a little. Tilted his head. Hey. Looks a lot like the one I got my wife from that Etsy shop in Asheville. Same chain, same bar. Weird. And just like that, the air went thin. He didn't say anything else. But he kept looking. I tried to smile and changed the subject, fast. Later that night, I found Kevin sitting alone on the porch. He had a cigar burning low, the kind he only smokes when he's thinking too hard. A half-empty glass of Jameson was sweating beside him. I stepped outside. Everyone gone? He nodded, didn't look at me. Long pause. Then he said, real quiet. You know, I can live with being bored. I can even live with being lonely. I stood there, heart thudding, hands tucked into my dress pockets. But I can't live with being lied to in my own home. He didn't look at me when he said it. Just stared out at the dark yard. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because anything I said would either be a lie or worse, the truth. And then, as if some cruel god was listening, I heard it. That soft buzz. From the drawer in the hallway. Where I'd hidden the burner phone, and forgotten to switch it off. I froze. He didn't move. Just sipped his drink. You should get that, he said, still not turning around. And then, very calmly. Next time, be smarter. I didn't breathe. Didn't move. He just sat there, as if he'd already mourned me and moved on. That was the moment it hit me. Not just that he knew, but that he had known for a while. And he was watching to see how far I'd go. I went back inside. Locked the bathroom door. Sank to the cold tile floor. The phone was still buzzing in the drawer. And I didn't know if I wanted to answer, or throw it in the toilet. Either way. This wasn't a secret anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. I sat on the bathroom floor with the burner phone in my lap, its screen glowing in the dark like a guilty little heartbeat. One unread message. Just sitting there. Waiting. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Not after the way Kevin had looked through me, like I was already gone. Like whatever part of me he used to love had been boxed up and stored away in some attic he never visited anymore. Around 3 a.m., I finally turned the phone off and stuffed it in the pocket of my old parka. The one with dog hair stuck in the seams and receipts from a dozen grocery runs still crumpled in the lining. I shoved it deep in the back of the closet, behind a pair of snow boots I haven't worn in 2 years. Out of sight. But not gone. Nothing ever really goes away. In the morning, Kevin was already in the garage when I came downstairs. I heard the dull thump of the punching bag he hung last year. One of those midlife crisis purchases, like the new grill, or the sudden obsession with trail running. He never sticks with any of it. But he was hitting that bag like it owed him something. I poured myself a cup of coffee. It tasted like ashes. The house was too bright. Too still. Like it was holding its breath. I sat in the kitchen, stared at the condensation on the window. The backyard looked normal. Our neighbor's dog barked at a squirrel. A delivery truck passed. Nothing was normal. And everything was. When Kevin finally came in, his shirt was soaked through. He didn't say anything. Just grabbed a towel, wiped his face, and walked past me like I was a stranger renting a room. The silence between us was starting to feel like its own language. Later that day, I found the necklace on the bathroom sink. Just sitting there. He'd taken it off my nightstand, I guess. Laid it out like an exhibit. I picked it up with shaking hands. Almost threw it in the trash. Instead, I shoved it into the drawer with my old makeup. Let it tangle in the mess. That night, I finally caved. I turned the burner back on. Jacob's message was simple. "You okay?" I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. "No." His answer came almost instantly. "Want to talk?" I did. God, I did. But talking would turn into something else. And I already knew I couldn't carry this any further without burning everything down behind me. "Not tonight," I typed. And then, after a long breath, "He knows." There was no reply for a while. Then, "I'm sorry, Red. I never wanted to hurt you. It should have made me feel something. But it didn't." I was numb. Floating. Disconnected from my own mess. Days passed like that. Kevin didn't confront me. He didn't rage or ask questions or cry. He just checked out. He went through the motions. Cleaned the gutters. Paid the bills. Laughed a little too loudly at his phone sometimes, like he was trying to prove he could be happy without me. Maybe he could. Maybe he already was. One afternoon, I found a receipt on the kitchen counter. It was from a Motel 6 off Highway 30. Dated 3 days ago. 2 nights. Paid in cash. I stared at it for a long time. My first thought wasn't fury or betrayal. It was, so this is how it ends. Not with a blow-up. Not with screaming or slamming doors. Just 2 people quietly erasing each other. I didn't ask. He didn't offer. We sat across from each other that night, eating reheated pasta in silence, while the TV played some show we'd stopped watching a year ago. I kept waiting for something to crack. For one of us to flinch. To reach across the table and do something. But we didn't. I don't know what hurt more, the affair, or the fact that we'd both become too tired to care. That night, I went outside and stood barefoot on the porch. The air smelled like grass clippings and old cigarettes. Somewhere down the block, someone was playing Fleetwood Mac. The kind of song that makes you ache without knowing why. I pulled out the burner. Typed a message. Deleted it. Typed again. Deleted that one too. Finally, I just wrote, "I'm disappearing." And turned the phone off for good. But the thing is, you can't actually disappear from your own life. No matter how far you run, it follows you. In the smell of burnt toast. In the cold side of the bed. In the silence between 2 people who used to laugh over nothing. I crawled into bed beside Kevin that night. He was already turned away. Breathing steady. But not asleep. I knew he was awake. I knew he was waiting to see if I'd say something. I didn't. Because I had nothing left to say. And neither did he. We just lay there. 2 ghosts in a house that used to feel like home. And somewhere, between the slow tick of the ceiling fan and the ache in my chest, I realized we weren't waiting for healing. We were just waiting to see who would leave first. The next morning, the air felt heavier than usual. Not hot, not humid. Just heavy. Like the house knew something was ending. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, toothbrush dangling from my lips, staring at the woman who looked back. The skin under my eyes was puffier. My hair frizzed at the temples. That stupid wrinkle between my brows had gotten deeper, the one I swore I'd get Botox for but never did. I didn't look sad. I didn't look angry. I looked erased. Like someone had hit a reset button halfway through the story and forgot to fill in the rest. Kevin had already left. He'd started leaving earlier lately, said he liked getting ahead of traffic, but I knew better. He was avoiding me. Maybe himself too. He'd packed a small overnight bag 2 days ago and never unpacked it. It lived in the trunk of his car now, like a little escape plan that didn't need announcing. I spent most of the day in silence. Cleaned things that didn't need cleaning. Reorganized the spice cabinet. Alphabetized canned goods. Took down picture frames and put them back up again like I was searching for some kind of order, some hidden message. I found an old photo tucked behind the silverware tray. Me and Kevin, 20 years ago, on a beach in Florida. He had sunburn across his nose. I was wearing a baseball cap that said, "Life's a beach," like it was the funniest thing in the world. We were grinning like idiots. That was before. Before the silence. Before the lies. Before I started talking to a man who saw me through a screen and somehow made me feel more real than the one who slept beside me every night. I sat on the kitchen floor for a while with that photo in my lap. The tiles were cold. My back ached from sitting so long. The fridge buzzed behind me like a lazy mosquito. That was when I made the decision. Not a big dramatic one. No fireworks, no tears. Just a quiet, dull certainty that I couldn't keep floating in this halfway space. I couldn't keep pretending that two broken people could glue themselves back together just because they didn't want to deal with the mess of splitting. I didn't know what I was walking toward, but I knew I couldn't stay here. That night, I waited until Kevin got home. He dropped his keys in the bowl. Kicked his shoes off by the door. Walked straight past me into the living room, like I wasn't there. I followed. He was sitting in the recliner, scrolling through his phone, face blank. "Can we talk?" He didn't look up. "Sure." That was all he said. But it was enough. I sat on the edge of the couch. Not too close. "I'm leaving." No reaction. Not at first. Then a slow blink, like he was processing it through water. "Where are you going?" "I don't know yet." Another pause. Then he nodded. Just once. Like he'd been waiting for this. I didn't expect him to beg. But some part of me had hoped for something. Anger. Sadness. One last spark that said he still cared. That this was more than just habit. But he just nodded. Like I'd said I was going to the store. "I'll pack a bag tonight," I said. He nodded again. And that was it. No fight. No questions. Just two people watching the quiet collapse of a life they'd built like a Lego set with no instructions. I spent the rest of the evening folding things carefully. Not because I needed to, but because it gave my hands something to do. I packed basics. Clothes. Toiletries. The burner phone. I tossed the necklace in two, though I hated myself for it. When I zipped the suitcase, I stared at it for a long time. Like maybe if I looked hard enough, I could see the version of me who started all this. The one who sent that first message. The one who got caught up in the sound of a stranger's voice. I couldn't see her anymore. Not really. Just someone who'd lost herself long before the affair ever began. The hardest part was the bedroom. We used to sleep tangled together. Used to talk in whispers until one of us drifted off. Used to fight about who got the good pillow. Now I was folding a comforter I didn't want to take and staring at a bed that had become a border. I left early the next morning. Didn't even leave a note. Just walked out while the sun was still low, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. As I pulled out of the driveway, I looked in the rearview mirror. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Quieter. Like it had finally gotten what it wanted. A clean break. I drove 3 blocks before I pulled over. Sat there for a full 5 minutes with the engine running, the burner phone glowing in my lap again. One new message. From Jacob. Read, "Are you okay? I had a dream you were drowning." I stared at it. My finger hovered over the reply button. But I didn't press it. Because I didn't know the answer. Not yet. The motel I checked into was called the Sunrise Inn, which felt like a sick joke at the time. It sat just off the interstate, wedged between a closed-down Waffle House and a gas station with one flickering pump. I asked for a room on the second floor, not because I liked stairs, my knees hated them, but because it gave me a little distance from the world. The key was old-school metal, no plastic card. That detail shouldn't have mattered, but for some reason, it did. Felt like a reminder that I'd crossed some line into a different life, one without digital conveniences or clean exits. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and old cigarette smoke. There was a burn mark on the carpet near the AC unit. The TV remote was sticky. And I sat on the edge of the bed for a full hour, just staring at the wall, like it might tell me what the hell to do next. The burner phone was still in my purse, wrapped in a scarf like some dirty secret. I didn't turn it on. Not yet. Instead, I pulled out the paperback I'd grabbed from the nightstand at home. A book I never actually read, Do You Hate the One You Love? One of those midlife philosophy titles with soft blue covers and bold promises. I opened it to a random page. Resentment is just heartbreak in a straitjacket. I read that line over and over until the words started to blur. Then I cried. Not the messy, gasping kind of cry. This was quieter. Deeper. The kind that bubbles up from somewhere buried under years of trying to hold everything together. It wasn't just about Kevin. Or Jacob. Or even what I'd done. It was about everything I'd lost along the way without noticing. That night, I slept in sweatpants and a t-shirt from a fundraiser we did at work 5 years ago. I curled up in the corner of the bed, like I used to do when I was 17 and terrified of everything. The motel AC hummed above me. My throat was dry. I drank lukewarm water from a plastic cup and stared at the shadows moving on the ceiling. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I finally turned the phone back on. It buzzed immediately. 4 unread messages from Jacob. You don't have to answer. I just want to know you're okay. I'm here. Wherever you are, I'll come to you. Say the word, read. My hands shook as I typed. I left. The reply came fast. God, are you safe? Yeah. Motel. He called. I didn't answer. He texted again. Let me come to you. Please. And for a split second, I wanted to say yes. Not because I wanted to fall into his arms. Not because I thought he was my future. But because I was scared. And tired. And needed to feel something real. Instead, I wrote. Not yet. I need to find out who I am without either of you. He didn't reply right away. When he did, it was only 2 words. I understand. And strangely, I believed him. The next day, I walked to the gas station next door, bought a coffee in a styrofoam cup, and sat on the curb sipping it while the morning sun climbed higher. My head ached. My chest felt hollow. But I was breathing. Really breathing. I started looking up apartments online. Something small. Simple. Maybe near that park downtown where I used to take our daughter when she was little. I didn't know how I'd afford it. I didn't even know if I could make it work. But it was a direction. A thread to pull. That evening, I got a text from Kevin. It just said, bank account split. I moved out. House is yours if you want it. No hello. No goodbye. Just logistics. Like we were business partners dissolving a company. I stared at it for a long time. Then typed something, erased it, typed again. Finally, I sent. Thanks. Take care of yourself. He didn't answer. That night, I made a list. Not of regrets, but of things I still wanted, still hoped for, still believed in. The list was short, but it was mine. And when I folded it and slipped it into my wallet, right next to my ID, it felt like a quiet promise. I wasn't ready to go home, because I didn't know where home was anymore. But for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of finding out. 3 weeks passed before I told anyone. Not about the affair, not yet, but just that I'd left. I called my sister on a Thursday morning, right after I finished eating a granola bar for breakfast and crying over a rerun of House Hunters like it was a war movie. I told her I needed help finding a storage unit. She didn't ask many questions. Just said, "You got it. You want me to bring my truck or Dad's?" Sometimes people surprise you in the gentlest ways. We met at the Sunrise Inn an hour later. She hugged me without squeezing too hard, like she could sense how fragile I was. She looked at the worn motel carpeting, the bag of gas station laundry soap by the door, the coffee stain on the pillow, and she didn't flinch. Didn't judge. Just asked what needed packing. I hadn't been back to the house. Not once. Kevin and I had exchanged maybe 3 texts total, all about finances. He didn't ask where I was staying. I didn't offer it. That felt fair. Like we were preserving what little dignity we had left by not prying into each other's aftermath. The truth? I missed him. Not the version of him from the last 5 years, silent, distant, routine-driven, but the man he was when we first built that life. The way he used to kiss my forehead without thinking. The way he'd reach for my hand in line at the grocery store like we were still newlyweds. I didn't miss Jacob. Not exactly. I missed the feeling he gave me. The heat. The curiosity. The rush of being seen. But he'd been quiet too. After I told him I needed space, he backed off. 2 texts, both short. Hope you're okay. Still thinking about you. Then silence. I appreciated that. Because it gave me room to breathe. But some nights, when the motel walls closed in too tight, and the air smelled like bleach and loneliness, I'd scroll through our old messages just to feel like I still existed to someone. The worst part of all this? I didn't know who I was without the attention. That hit me hard one morning while brushing my teeth in the motel mirror. I caught myself tilting my chin, checking my reflection with a kind of desperation, like I was trying to find traces of a woman worth wanting. Not for love. Not even for sex. Just to be noticed. To be chosen. I used to think affairs were about lust. Maybe for some people they are. But for me? It was about being seen. About mattering again. I told my sister I was looking for an apartment. Something tiny. I didn't want furniture. Just a bed, a kitchen, a window that got a little sun in the morning. She offered her guest room. I said no. Because I needed to know I could survive on my own. Even if it meant being lonely. Even if it meant nights with boxed wine and cheap noodles and no one to say goodnight to. That week, I found a studio over a nail salon on Pine Street. It had old hardwood floors and a ceiling fan that made a soft ticking sound when it ran too fast. The bathroom was the size of a closet, and the fridge was yellowing with age, but I fell in love with the sunlight. The landlord was a woman named Marcy who wore cat-eye glasses and smelled like gardenias. She didn't ask for much, just proof I wasn't going to disappear on her. I signed the lease with shaking hands. Moved in with 2 duffel bags and a heart full of broken glass. I bought a mattress online and slept on the floor until it arrived. Ate cereal from a paper bowl. Sat cross-legged on the hardwood, flipping through channels like I was trying to find a version of myself in the static. Jacob reached out again. right after I updated my mailing address on one of those people search sites. I guess he found it. The message was simple. "You okay out there, Red?" And I stared at it for what felt like forever. Then finally typed, "I'm figuring it out." He called that night. And this time, I picked up. His voice sounded the same. Low. Careful. Like he was afraid to scare me off. "You don't have to talk. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you." I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know how to say that I wasn't proud of myself yet. But I wanted to be. So I whispered, "Thank you," and let the silence stretch between us like a bridge. We didn't say much else. Just sat in the quiet, breathing. And when the call ended, I stared at my ceiling for a long time. The fan made its ticking sound. The city buzzed outside my window. And somewhere, deep in my chest, a tiny piece of me started to feel whole again. I got a job at a florist 2 blocks from the apartment. It wasn't glamorous, I wasn't arranging orchids or designing centerpieces for weddings. Mostly I watered plants, swept up leaves, and rang up old ladies buying succulents with names like Peaches and Little Ed. But the work kept my hands moving. And sometimes that's enough. The shop smelled like damp earth and eucalyptus. A soft bell chimed every time someone opened the door. There was a little radio on the counter that played 80s hits on low volume, and I'd catch myself humming along to songs I hadn't heard since high school. The owner, Bev, was in her 60s. She wore flowy cardigans and used the word darling like punctuation. On my 3rd day, she handed me a mug that said Plant Lady and told me I looked less haunted than I had on Monday. She didn't pry. Just gave me tasks and space. The first time I laughed, really laughed, was a week into the job. A guy came in asking if we sold funeral tulips, and Bev didn't miss a beat, only if the deceased was allergic to roses, hun. I snorted. Loud. And for a split second, I wasn't the woman who cheated or left or lived in a showbox apartment above a nail salon. I was just me. It was strange how quickly I adjusted to the quiet. There were no creaking floors from Kevin walking down the hallway. No ESPN humming from the living room. No checking the clock to see when he'd come home. Or if he would at all. Just me. A chipped ceramic bowl with keys in it. A candle that smelled like cinnamon. A fridge with exactly 1 bottle of white wine and a pack of string cheese. Freedom and loneliness look an awful lot alike at first. I heard from Kevin again last Tuesday. An envelope, not a text. It was a formal letter, printed, signed, from a lawyer. He'd filed. Not a lot of fanfare. No accusations. Just a request for dissolution, property notes, and a typed line that said, "And no contest." I sat on the kitchen floor, the letter in my lap, knees pulled up to my chest. It didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like something finally exhaled. Like the last puzzle piece sliding into place after months of pretending the picture was still whole. I didn't cry. I thought I might. Maybe I wanted to. But I just folded the letter, set it on the counter, and made a grilled cheese sandwich with too much butter and the wrong kind of bread. Jacob called later that night. It was the first time we talked for more than 5 minutes since I moved. His voice was steadier than I remembered. Maybe I was steadier, too. "You sound different," he said. "Do I?" "Yeah. Like, you not asking for permission to be yourself anymore." I laughed softly. Maybe I'm just tired of waiting for someone to hand me the right script. We talked about stupid things. Books we never finished. Bad coffee. What it feels like to wake up alone but not feel empty. He asked if I ever thought about what might have happened if we'd met at a different time. I paused. All the time, I admitted. But then I added, I don't think I would have seen you back then. I was too busy performing my life instead of living it. Silence for a few seconds. Then he said, I still think about your voice. It made something soft inside me ache. But not in the dangerous way it used to. In a kind, familiar way. We didn't plan to meet again. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that felt okay. Because this wasn't about saving a romance. It was about saving myself. I hung up and went out onto the little fire escape outside my window. Sat on the rusted metal grating with a glass of that too sweet wine and let the city noise buzz around me like a lullaby. There was a mural on the building across the street. I'd never really noticed it before. A woman with wild hair and gold in her eyes. The words beneath her said, "You are not lost. You are becoming." And I believed it. For the first time. I didn't know what tomorrow would look like. I didn't know if I'd stay in this apartment, or this job, or this version of myself. But I knew one thing for sure. I was done being a ghost in my own life. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. No panic. No shame. Just a slow breath. And a sliver of peace. It was the sound of the rain that brought everything back. Not the hard, dramatic kind. Just that steady, rhythmic patter against the windows, soft, but constant. I was standing at the front counter of the flower shop, watching it fall in sheets across the parking lot, when the door creaked open and sent a chill into the room. He stepped inside, soaked from the knees down. I knew him immediately. Not Jacob. Not Kevin. My daughter's boyfriend, Jonah. He looked surprised to see me. Then again, I hadn't told anyone where I was living, least of all my daughter. It wasn't that I was hiding, not really, but I wasn't ready to answer the questions I knew would come. He rubbed the rain from his glasses, stepped closer. "Red?" he asked, using the nickname like it was something he wasn't sure he had permission to say. I blinked. Took a breath. "How did you find me?" He looked sheepish, held up his phone. "Your old landlord said you left forwarding info. I was helping Ellie pack some things and saw your name on a letter. She doesn't know I'm here." Ellie. My daughter. God. I hadn't spoken to her in over a month. After I left, we texted a few times, short updates, nothing real. She didn't ask why I moved. I didn't offer. Now her boyfriend was standing in front of me, dripping water on the linoleum, holding a bouquet of wilted wildflowers. "I didn't come to judge you," he said, voice low. She misses you." She's scared to say it. I looked down at the flowers. He'd clearly picked them up from a gas station or grocery store on the way. They were wrapped in plastic with a broken rubber band holding them together. Something about that, the imperfection of it, broke me. "You want some tea?" I asked, motioning toward the back. He nodded, grateful. We sat on a pair of rickety stools in the staff area, sipping from mismatched mugs. The rain kept falling outside, dull and steady. "You don't owe me anything," he said after a while. "But, if you want to talk to her, I think she's ready." I set my mug down slowly. I don't even know what I'd say. "Sorry your mom blew up her life?" He smiled a little. Not mocking. Just tired. You'd be surprised how forgiving people can be when you're honest. I stared at the chipped countertop. I wasn't honest with anyone. Not even myself. Another pause. He stood, adjusted his jacket. That's the thing about honesty, though. It doesn't expire. It just waits. And then he was gone. Just like that. Leaving the door creaking behind him and the flowers on the counter. I stared at them for a long time. Then, with shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and opened my messages. Ellie's name sat near the top of the list, untouched since last month. I clicked it. Typed. Erased. Typed again. Finally hit send. I miss you. Nothing poetic. Just truth. 2 hours passed before she wrote back. Me too. That night, I dreamed of my old house. Not the recent version, with the cold silences and separate beds, but the one from years ago. Where Ellie ran through the kitchen with jelly on her fingers and Kevin chased her with a dish towel, both of them laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. I woke up with tears on my cheeks. But they weren't bitter. They were grateful. Because I'd had that once. And that mattered. At the shop the next morning, Bev handed me a delivery slip. Local drop. No rush. But you might want to bring an umbrella. The address was familiar. Too familiar. Jacob. He'd sent flowers. To himself? No. That didn't make sense. I hesitated, staring at the slip. Bev raised an eyebrow. You okay, hon? I nodded slowly. Yeah. I think so. The drive to his place took 15 minutes. I knew the route by memory, though I'd never actually been to his house. Just from things he'd said, landmarks, turns, the name of the coffee shop on the corner. I parked across the street and sat in the car for a while, the flowers in my lap. Not roses. Tulips. Bright yellow. Hopeful. I walked up the steps, heart pounding. Knocked once. Then twice. He opened the door, eyes wide with surprise, maybe fear. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then I held out the flowers. Delivery for someone who once said I still tasted sweet. He laughed. Soft and broken and real. You came. I wasn't sure I would. Are you okay? I shook my head. Then nodded. I don't know. But I'm trying. He stepped aside. I didn't go in. Not yet. Just stood in the doorway, soaked from the rain, the tulips between us like a question. And for the first time in months? The answer didn't scare me. I didn't go inside that day. Jacob didn't ask me to, either. We stood there for a while, him in the doorway, me holding those tulips like a shield. Rain dripping from my coat sleeves. The quiet between us felt heavy, but not unbearable. It was a different kind of silence. One with air in it. After a minute, he nodded toward the flowers. These were actually meant for you. I blinked. You ordered them to your own house? He grinned, sheepish. Didn't trust myself to send them directly. Thought if you showed up, it meant you were ready. If not, I'd just leave them in the kitchen and try to move on. There was something about that honesty, awkward and vulnerable and entirely unpolished, that hit me harder than any poetic message ever could. I handed him the bouquet. They are still fresh. He looked down at the petals, then back at me. You look different. I am. He nodded slowly. You want to come in? I didn't answer right away. I stepped back, pulled the hood of my coat up. Not today. And he didn't push. Just smiled, soft and a little sad. Okay. Another time. I turned and walked back to my car, soaked, shivering, breath catching in my throat. But it wasn't from sadness. Or regret. It was something else. The strange ache of choosing yourself. The next few days passed in a haze of routine. Work, sleep, eat, repeat. I rearranged the furniture in my studio apartment even though it barely had room to begin with. I replaced the too-sweet wine with ginger tea. I finally threw out the burner phone, dropped it in the donation bin at the corner store, let someone else decide its fate. I even found a therapist. Her name is Mara. She wears clogs and drinks iced lattes in the dead of winter. The first time I sat in her office, I didn't say much. Just stared at the peeling sticker on her laptop that said, "You don't have to bleed to be broken." She waited me out. Eventually, I spoke. I was unfaithful. She didn't flinch. Didn't ask for the juicy details. Just leaned forward, clasped her hands. "Tell me what that means to you." And that cracked me open. Because it meant 1,000 things. I betrayed my husband. I betrayed my vows. I betrayed the version of me who thought she'd never do something like that. But more than anything, I betrayed my own loneliness. I let it fester, then used it as an excuse. Every week, I sit on that couch and unpack another piece of the story. Mara listens. Never judges. Occasionally asks a question that makes me want to crawl out of my skin, but in the best way. One day, she asked what I missed most. I didn't even have to think. The way it felt to be wanted without expectation. She nodded, made a note in her spiral-bound journal. "And do you think you can give that to yourself?" I laughed. Not a real laugh. A bitter one. I don't know how. That's what we're here for. So I kept showing up. Even on the days I wanted to disappear. Even when the guilt came back with claws. I started writing again, nothing big, just little journal entries, notes to myself. I wrote about the smell of the flower shop, about Jonah's kindness, about the mural across from my window and how it looked different at dusk. I wrote a letter to Kevin. Didn't send it. But I folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer next to my socks. It started like this. "I loved you more than I knew how to say." And then I stopped trying to say it at all. Ellie called me last night. For real this time. No texts. No middlemen. Just her voice on the line, shaky and quiet. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to," I told her. "I'm not mad," she said. I wish you'd told me you weren't okay." I nodded, even though she couldn't see. I didn't know how to explain the kind of sadness that doesn't look like sadness. She was quiet for a beat. Then, "I get that." We didn't talk long. But it was a start. And sometimes, that's everything. Later that night, I stood by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on. I thought about Jacob. About Kevin. About all the versions of me they each had loved, or thought they did. And I thought about the woman I was becoming now. Not perfect. Not healed. But honest. Still standing. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel ashamed to be her.